I would say to take care of your inner child, because that is everything.
Welcome to the Women Inspired podcast, brought to you by Modern Well, a beautiful woman-centered collaborative workspace in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm your host, April Seifert, psychologist, entrepreneur, and self-proclaimed life experience junkie. Each week, I will introduce you to a different woman who is succeeding and inspiring others in one way or another. We'll dive into her story, her successes, failures, and the lessons she has learned along the way, all with the goal of inspiring you to listen to that inner voice who keeps reminding you that there is something you want to take action on. You are so much more capable and powerful than you give yourself credit for. Inside of you is a woman on fire. Let's let her out and see what happens. Here we go. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Women Inspired podcast. My name is April Seifert and I'm your host. And this week you are meeting an incredible woman who had a huge impact on my own life, and I'm so thrilled to bring her to you in this interview. This week you are going to meet the incredible Kirsie Schwender. She is the owner and the mastermind behind the company Love and Drishti. With her company, Kirsie is a yoga instructor, and she makes the most gorgeous jewelry, bracelets and necklaces and other things like that out of gorgeous crystals and other types of beads. Now, that probably doesn't sound like it's that impactful, like it's that big of a deal, but her work is so much more than that. Kirsie leads these transformational sessions called Meditate and Create, where essentially she brings you into this incredible meditation session where she uses Tibetan singing bowls to help you really connect with who you are and what it is you're trying to do with this next chapter of your life. And that could be something small, like making a small change, to something really big and transformational, which is why I was excited to work with her. And then at the end of this, she has you put together a bracelet made out of different types of crystals that sort of signify the change that you're going through, to be kind of a tangible reminder of the shift that you're trying to make. I'll tell you what, when I took her session, I love meditation, but I'm not a big metaphysical person. I'm serious. I sat in that room and I felt like my DNA shifted around a little bit, and that I came out of there a different person than when I went in. It was such a powerful experience, and we talk about that a little bit during the interview. Kirsie also talks about her own personal transformation, going from a kid who literally felt like she couldn't be who she was. So many of us can relate to that on some level. She felt like she couldn't be who she was and do the creative things that she wanted to do just because of feedback she got when she was younger. The transformation she went through to step into that work and become the person she is today, whose work is featured in places like Miraval, the incredible resort in the Southwest that Oprah and other famous people go to. I mean, that is no small accomplishment. So this week, you're going to meet someone who is so near and dear to my heart. She is another incredible woman who offices out of Modern Well, and I absolutely cannot wait for you to meet Kirsie. Kirsie, I am so excited that you're on this episode of the podcast and that we get to record in your beautiful space. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, April. I'm really excited myself.
So to give everybody an idea of where we're at, so Kirsie is one of the incredible women who offices out of Modern Well, and we are recording in her beautiful showroom. We'll get into what is in her beautiful showroom in just a moment, but you all would be very jealous as to where I'm sitting, because I'm sitting among some of the most gorgeous work ever, so it's really, really fun to be here. Before we get ahead of ourselves, because I tend to do that, help us get to know you and tell us a little bit about who you are.
I am a jewelry designer and a yoga instructor. And
so did you, jewelry designer and yoga feels like a little bit dichotomous. Are those things that you've always been interested in?
Yes, I've always made jewelry since I was a child. And I've been teaching yoga for 10 years, but it has not always been in my life. Yeah. Many years ago when I explored yoga, when my children were small, I thought that it was just an exercise. Yeah. And when I got there, I realized that it was so much more. And it was bringing up a lot of things that I wasn't ready to see because I wasn't there at that part of life. So I thought, you know what, I think I'm not going to go back to yoga for a while because it was very hard to sit with yourself and actually see things that you might not want to see yet. I realized that it was much more than exercise. So I didn't go back for a long time. And then one day when I was in a very dark place, I went to a yoga studio that said, free week of yoga. It was Core Power. And I drove into the parking lot. I went in and I cried during one of the postures, half pigeon. And I went to my car and I said, I don't know what the hell just happened to me in there, but I'm coming back tomorrow. And after I started going to yoga, things became clear in my life, a direction, and I knew things that I had to do. Like, the answers all came to me because they're all inside of you. You just have to listen. So I wound up eventually taking teacher training because I wanted, if I could affect just one person the way that I was affected, it would be so meaningful to me. So
I love it. Okay, so something that, to give people a little bit of context about how I met Kirsie, I've mentioned a number of times on the podcast that I took Yasna Bursa's mastermind, Minneapolis mastermind. She is one of my past interviewees. And as part of that mastermind, we did sort of a meditation session, and Kirsie happened to be the person who was leading it. And I've done meditation before and have always thought of it as sort of a maybe stress relieving sort of thing, a way to calm my mind. I'm very type A and have too many things going on at once. But there was something about this session that was so special and so different. We walked in, and first of all, if you've ever met Kirsie, she's one of the most calming, grounded people ever. And in this session, she played these Tibetan singing bowls that were the most beautiful sound that I've ever heard. And I literally felt like I could feel these sound waves on my body, like I could almost scoop them out of the air. And that was the first time I had been in a meditation session where I felt like, I don't know, like my DNA shifted and changed. And what I think is so interesting about you is that profound impact on people is what you put into your work. Like, whether it's meditation, whether it's yoga, whether it's jewelry, there's care and craft that you put into your work that can impact people on a profound level. And so what I'm wondering if we can do is sort of back up and talk through your history and how you got into jewelry design and why that was such an important thing to you. Because I know that was something that was almost healing to you when you were younger.
Well, as a child, I always made jewelry for people. Two things. I was always attracted to rocks and stones. I would hold them in my pocket, and they would keep me grounded in those moments when my life was anything but. Mm-hmm. As a child, I was very creative. I would put on plays in my front yard. I made a newspaper that explained everything in the whole neighborhood that the kids were doing and sold it to my neighbors. So I was an entrepreneur as well. I did so many creative things. I wanted to be a ballerina. I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to make things, paint. And my parents sort of stifled that. They always told me that being creative was not going to make me any money and it wasn't going to lead anywhere. So I grew up as a child thinking that everything that I thought was wrong. So it was interesting because it kind of squashed my spirit. I wound up not really expressing myself fully because I didn't think people would understand. And because of that, it was kind of difficult. But I do believe that if you repress your expression of who you are, it will manifest in illness. Because as a child, I had strep throat all the time. All the time. It was crazy. I was constantly going to the doctor and getting prescriptions for antibiotics because I had strep throat. And I really do believe now that the reason I had strep throat as a child is because I wasn't able to express myself.
Interesting. You know, there's a lot of psychology work around identity and our core belief systems about who we are, what we know to be true about ourselves, like at our core who we are, and the dissonance that we experience and the friction that we experience when we live in a way that's not that. And we talk about that a lot on the podcast around, I talk a lot with people about this concept of life design, and the initial stages of that involve getting to know who you are, getting to know yourself really well, because ultimately, one of the saddest things that I ever read is that people at the end of their life, when you talk to people at the end of their life, things that they regret, one of the biggest, most common regrets is they regret not being who they really are. They regret living their life in a way that they thought other people expected them to live, or the way that they should or are supposed to live, instead of being who they are. So it's that friction point that it seems like you can feel in your story, where you wanted to create and you wanted to, make beautiful, amazing things, but you felt like you couldn't. Yeah. How did that change for you? How did you go from feeling like that to transitioning into this place you are now, which we'll talk about your business in a moment, but the place that you're at now, where like this is your thing, this is what you're doing?
Well, I believe part of what helped me evolve into who I am now is yoga, because I was able to meditate and get clear about who I am. Because if you slow down the mind chatter, everything that you need is already inside of you, and everything that your true authentic self can be seen. Whereas this is why I created Meditate and Create, because it allows people the opportunity to get really close to themselves and hear what they need to do. And even if you don't know what that is, you can explore that by going back to your childhood. Mm-hmm. The things that made you happy then, but you don't do anymore. Like,
tell us a little bit about Meditate and Create. I mean, we got a little taste of that, like a small taste of it during Mastermind, but tell us about that whole experience. What's that like for people who sign up? And what do they do, I guess? We'll start there.
Well, we start with an opening circle, just to find out a little bit about each person, and also breaks the ice and makes people comfortable to be around other people that they don't know, if it's a group of strangers. Mm-hmm. And then we do meditation to really just explore what's inside of us. Mm-hmm. We all are creative beings, innately creative beings, and sometimes we forget that. So I think, like I said, that it's important to go back to when you were a child and the things that made you happy then, but also to think about what you would like to manifest in your life, because you can manifest anything if you just bring your attention to that, put your energy there. And you have to let go of stories that you've heard about yourself or that people tell you, like your whole life, what you should do, put you in a box, and just be creative to be who you are. It's not that easy to get there.
It is. It's scary for people. It
is scary, because you've heard all your life that you should be doing this, and this by the time you're this age. And then when you're this age, you should acquire this, and this, and this. And this is the way that you need to do it. But I feel like many of the best or most successful, I would say, entrepreneurs, they listen to their own voice. They didn't listen to anybody else.
Yeah, because you think about the notion of being an entrepreneur, that means that you've created, like you're solving a problem for people, or you are creating a product that solves a problem for people that it didn't exist before. Or like it was a need that somebody had that wasn't being fulfilled before. And that in and of itself involves doing something new that other people aren't doing. I mean, one thing that I think is unique about what you do is, the bowls themselves. I've never had somebody incorporate that into a session. Like that sound and the vibration that come off of the bowls, it was different than what I've ever experienced before. Tell us a little bit about those for people who haven't had that experience before.
Okay, so my meditation is, the bowls are part of the meditation because it's an overall sensory experience.
Yes.
To really deeply connect with yourself. So we have ideas that are in our head that we think we want, and then I feel like the bowls, those particular bowls are actually tuned to different notes that are actively connected to your chakras in your body, which are energy centers for people that don't know what that is. So when we do part of the meditation part of the practice, we tune into like what it is that you would like to manifest in your life. And then the singing bowls are brought in so that you can see your physical body's reaction to what you would like to manifest in your life.
Interesting.
each part of your body or each one of those energy centers is connected to a different thing. So you have your root chakra, which is connected to your fundamental, like all the needs that are just like basic.
Like fundamental to you as a human.
Yes, like what you would need, like security, whether it be financial or just security of where you are, trust, family, friends.
Yeah.
That's your root chakra. That's what keeps you grounded. Then there's like your sacral chakra, which is the next one. That's your creation area of creation, including where your sexual organs are. So even creating human. Then there's the solar plexus, which is your ego.
Interesting.
And that's just like around the navel. Then there's your heart chakra, which is everything about love. And then your throat chakra, which is speaking your truth, but not in a way that is in judgment of others, but really being your authentic self and expression. And then there's your third eye chakra, which is center of intuition, trusting that inner voice. And your crown chakra connected to all things spiritual.
Interesting.
So when you play the singing bowls, it's really important to really tune into your body and see where you are feeling something. Maybe it's constriction in a certain area. So this is just to like help you really tune into yourself and what it is that part of that process of our meditation is to see if that is in line with what you want to manifest in your life.
Yeah. What I love about that, and folks who have listened to me know, like, I'm not super metaphysical just as a person, how I'm put together. But what I loved about that session, and when I say I felt like I walked out of it a different person, what that session allowed me to do, if you think about the way that you just described the chakras, right? It's almost like a framework for thinking about, okay, how am I doing in terms of how I am, like, my basic needs? Do I feel safe? Do I feel taken care of? Do I feel like I'm covered off there? Okay, my ability to create. Do I feel like I'm fully expressed in my ability to create? Okay, cool. How about my ego? How's that feeling right now? Do I feel like I'm living in alignment with it? How about my heart? How's that feeling right now? My intuition, am I listening to it? My, voice, am I using it? Like, I felt like during that session, I was really thinking through, and in the process of that session, I came into it with a very specific intention. I had a body of work that I wanted to do that I was afraid to do because I felt like, to exactly your point, people like me don't do work like this. People like me are not the type of people who put themselves out there like this. And so by tuning into all of those things, I mean, my ego took a hit during that session a lot because I'm like, why aren't you that type of person? Why not you? Who is the type of person who would do this work and how are they different from you? They're not. Like, they literally aren't. And so I felt like I walked out of that session having asked myself some extremely difficult questions. And maybe that's what happened to you during that yoga experience, I'm not sure. But I felt like I asked myself the most brutal questions, and in some ways I came up short. And that was like, you don't have an excuse anymore. You don't get to not do this anymore because you don't have a good answer for this. Like, why are they different than you? Why are they able to do this and you can't? You can't give me a good answer. And that's not good enough. And so literally I walked out of there like, okay, now who do I have to become and like, how do I do this? And I felt finally open and able to do it. It was crazy. Is that the experience you had with your like yoga experience? Is that similar, or how did that like, because that almost sounded like a cracking open experience when you described it earlier.
That was a cracking open experience because I went from as a child, a family who didn't support my creativity, and I kind of felt like I was a weirdo, so I would repress who I really was because I thought that was strange. I would always be in the background. I never really speak my mind or my truth. I was even afraid of speaking in public. I would never have ever thought that I would be a yoga teacher because even just speaking in front of, I've never thought I had anything important to say because I was kind of told that. And then I went on to marry someone who sort of was like a continuation of that.
Oh yeah, so common.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, right? So you are attracted to what you're used to, even if it's bad.
Yeah.
So I I went from that's when I went to yoga, because I felt invisible almost. I felt invisible. Like I felt anywhere I went, no one even saw me. So when I went to yoga, it was very moving. It was amazing. And then little by little, I just started to hear voices, and I learned from that the stories that I heard about me were not true. I mean, it wasn't just yoga. I mean, I've been to a lot of different retreats and things like that to also, because I've always been curious, like to self-study, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've always been curious about that. So I think yoga was definitely the catalyst. I mean, but it was a lot of different things. So
who did you figure out that you are now? Like, if you look at that person back then, this was the woman who believed she didn't have anything important to say, and believed that she couldn't create and wasn't creative, and believed that no one would ever make any money doing that, and no one could ever have a job doing that, and that's super not who you are now. How would you describe yourself now?
I would describe myself now as a person that can do anything. I really would. Because I feel very secure about who I am. And I feel very, very grounded. And now I am at a point where, and this is like something that I tell people, like a superpower that you can have is if you carry a stone with you, that's at least what I like to think of it as. When I'm in a situation, as a reminder, holding on to a stone of some kind reminds me that I am rooted, I'm grounded, I know who I am. Any energy that's coming at me that is not mine, that might be negative, chaotic, weird, I have a force field around me. That's what it feels like when I hold a stone. So that energy cannot get through. I know who I am. If you're coming in with like negativity, aggressiveness, chaos, that's not mine, that's yours, and it won't come here. You know, like I just keep it out. And it's kind of like the same way, like, so if people have something to say to you about my business, which a lot of people do, even your friends will say, you really shouldn't do this, or you should do that, or you should do this. But I'm like, it's my company, I can do whatever I want. And I'm going to stay true to my brand no matter what. Like, so people always want to like ask me to do something different, or can you do this instead of that? And I'm like, no.
Yeah, for sure. So in this meditate, I want to go back to meditate and create a little bit, because we kind of talked about the first part of it and how transformational that can be, or almost how like clarity invoking that can be. So people come to this experience, they go through the meditation portion of it. There is potentially this cracking open of the person where, you know, you really can set a pretty clear intention during that session. Then you take them and they do what?
Then we come upstairs and, well, because we started in the yoga studio, we come upstairs to the boardroom at Modern Realm, which is really a brightly lit area, and there's a multitude of stones that you can choose from, and we do a lot of things besides that. We also like have it's about like nourishing body, mind, spirit, the whole event. So we come upstairs, we have a really healthy, delicious lunch that is gluten and dairy-free and anti-inflammatory. And it's about nurturing and taking care of your whole self, not just part of it. Then people usually tell me when they come upstairs from the meditation part of it that they have a clear idea of what they want to make. And
I love that.
And when they make their bracelet, I'm amazed that they know exactly what stones they're going to pick out. And we haven't even talked about stones yet, just because of what they see colors and things when they're in the meditation part. And that bracelet becomes a powerful reminder of your unique spirit and your intention. And people wear that and they think about what it is that they're working towards, or it could be so many different things. So it's just like it's like amazing experience. At the end, we have a closing circle, and everyone talks about their experience, and every single one has been different, but it's always been really moving to me, like what comes out of their mouths. Like, not only if they're in a group, I've done some with a group that is all friends, and that's a totally different thing. And
I bet.
But that's amazing too. But they become connected as women, and oftentimes they tell me that they think that's like one of the things that they really like about it. I mean, that they connect with other humans, like, 'cause there's men in there too, sometimes, and what they get out of it is so much. Like, I don't know, it's just really incredible. For me, I feel like I have friends when we're done too. It's connection with the people that makes it all amazing and worthwhile.
It is. It's wonderful, and it's there was such a neat. It was such a neat experience when we went through just the small version, or the like meditate and create light maybe with the mastermind, because I feel like if anything at all, it connected us all because we all were there for a reason. Like we were all there because we had a goal or something that we were trying to accomplish, and every single one of us was afraid to do the thing that we absolutely knew we wanted to do. So much like you really wanted to create and make jewelry and make this into a career and a business, but we're afraid to do so because of all the stories and beliefs that you had. And that was the same exact experience for all of us. And there was something powerful about looking around that room again and seeing all these people who looking at them would be like, oh, you totally can do this. 100%. I 100% believe that you can create this business that you want to create. And then it dawns on you, oh my gosh, they think the same thing about me. And it was such a unique commonality and thread that ran through that group, because, and I could see that happening throughout these experiences where like there's commonality and a common thread, like something brought you there, and every person who's there is seeking some kind of clarity or seeking some kind of direction. And then the tangible reminder of that being that bracelet, it's huge. Like I wear mine literally almost every day because it's just such a big reminder of the transformation that happened in that room that day and over the course of the mastermind, but for sure in that room that day. It's wonderful. Something I want to just chat about is like your business itself. So tell us a little bit about Love and Drishti, and tell us a little bit about the business, like where you sell your stuff. Like you're in some famous places, like you're in Miraval, is that correct?
Yes.
Like tell us a little bit about your business, like how it's grown up over the years and maybe how you started and what it looks like now.
Well, when I started, I basically just was making jewelry for my friends. And so I feel like all of my really good friends and family, they knew that I loved them if I gave them a piece of jewelry. Or I also have done drawings for people, anything, like a gift that I made. Mm-hmm. That was like, you knew that you were like my really close friend if you got one of those. So I always made jewelry, but I don't know why, but it didn't occur to me like to sell it. I have no idea why. But then a couple of things happened. A really good friend of mine and other friends of mine, he got cancer, and so I knew that I made jewelry, and I was thinking, why don't like I make a bracelet? Like we could make a bracelet and sell those for him, like, and they can use the money. The family can use the money, and so my girlfriend. She was like, okay, I'll chip in with you for like the stones and everything, and then you make the bracelets and then we'll just sell them. So we did that, and we sold 100 bracelets for $40 each for the family, which was really, really nice. And then at the same time that happened, another friend of mine that I gave a bracelet to, she went to work and her boss saw it, and she was like, I want to carry those in my store. So wow. Those two things happened at the same time, so I felt like it was the universe giving me a push, because I'm like the type of person that can stay in a comfort zone and not really do anything until I get like the push from the universe, and it always happens. Yeah. And so that was the push to make it like a legit business. I was like, well, if I'm going to start making this for a store, and I have to it has to be a real business. So that's when I started doing that, and that actually didn't happen till it's been like a little bit over 3 years now.
That's amazing.
So that's where it started, and then I always wanted to be something really special. I decided that I would only sell like really quality materials because that's what I would buy for myself. I would never sell something that I wouldn't wear myself. And I usually think all of my jewelry is inspired by nature and spirituality, because those are very important things in my life. And so pretty much everything is based on that I make. And the stones, even the sterling silver beads that I use are all really special to me, and I make every single thing by myself. So I don't have anyone help me. I want to touch every single thing. And I usually, if people tell me that they would like a gift for somebody, I start thinking of that person. That's how Meditate and Create even got started, because I would actually take time, ground, meditate, really think about what my intention is before I started anything. So if you could feel that when you wear my product, I mean, then that's exactly what it's meant to be. That's exactly what it's meant to be.
And I mentioned this before we jumped on to record. I've bought, bracelets from other places before, and when I bought yours and I brought it home and I set it next to these other bracelets that I have, it just looks more expensive. It looks more special. It looks more beautiful. It's like brighter, and I don't know. It's like I don't want to wear any of the other ones anymore because this one that I have from you is just so special and so gorgeous. And so you can totally tell the difference in the quality between the thought and, the thought and craftsmanship that you put into what you're making versus what I've gotten other places. Hi, friends. I'm interrupting this podcast episode with a very important announcement. Have you ever looked at your calendar for the week and felt completely overwhelmed? Do you find yourself saying yes over and over to other people, which means you're saying no over and over to your own needs? And when it comes down to it, does your free time amount to tiny bits of time confetti here and there with no real time to focus on any one thing? I totally know how that feels. And if that sounds like you, you're going to want to hear this. I'm partnering with my incredible friend Leslie, the mastermind behind the blog Mom's Hierarchy of Needs, to offer an absolutely free webinar called Setting Value-Based Boundaries. During this webinar, we'll uncover your 5 most important personal values. Then we'll use them during a design thinking exercise that takes aim at your weekly calendar. You'll walk away with an intentional set of boundaries that are aligned to your personal values to help you finally get your calendar under control. Join us for this absolutely free webinar in the evening on April 9th. We're only offering it once. Sign up at aprilseifert.com/webinar or just hit the link in this episode description. I can't wait to see you guys there. So tell me a little bit about what's next for you. I don't know. We haven't talked about this at all.
Well, what's next for me is, as you said, I do have my jewelry men's line at Miraval in Arizona, and so I have a trunk show coming up there. They've invited me to be like a featured artist.
Tell people what Miraval is so they know what a big dang deal this is.
Miraval is the most amazing place in the universe.
I feel like Oprah goes there, kind of amazing.
But it's because it's a place where, I think their tagline is, you won't find you anywhere else. Every single thing that you do there has to do with mindfulness, whether it's a challenge course or a painting class or even a spa treatment. Everything there is about being mindful and really connecting to your most authentic self. And everyone, even though Oprah goes there and a lot of famous people go there, there's a lot of different people that go there, but your layers are stripped down. So nobody walks in there like, oh, I'm so much better than you, or everyone's at the same level because we all go through the same things together, and it's just an amazing place. I would highly recommend.
So you have a trunk show coming up?
Yes.
Nice.
It's May 3rd and 4th, and I'm really excited about that.
So before we close out the episode today, since I have you here, is there just any other advice that you would have for people? Like advice for people who, maybe are making a transition like what you've made, or have something big coming up, or I don't know, just advice for people.
I would say to take care of your inner child, because that is everything.
Yeah.
If you don't take care of your inner child, as an adult, things will happen that are not good.
Yeah.
You really need to take time, explore that, take care of your inner child.
I love that so much because I feel like we spend so much time and so much energy as adult people trying to toe the line and stay Stay within the boundaries of what we're supposed to do, and we don't take enough time to play or to explore or to experiment or to do all those things that kids would do. That inner child within you that knows exactly what's fun and knows exactly what they want to be doing with their time. We don't take time to explore that. And so I love that advice. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So when people are interested to find more about you, to see your jewelry, all of that, where can they find you online?
loveanddrishti.com. And you can also find most of my work on Instagram. My handle is Love and Drishti, or Facebook page. Both of those have a lot more pictures than I have on my website and products, so you can easily look at those and send me a message if you want to order something.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Your Instagram is so beautiful. Like your stuff, I mean, it's like exactly like food for Instagram because it's like really pretty things, and I just love following it. So I'll link to both of those things, Instagram, Facebook. I'll also link to your website in case people are interested in shopping. I highly suggest, like, it's more beautiful than any other jewelry that I've, come across, and it's much more special, and I feel like it just hits you on a soul level. So I will definitely link to all of those things on your show notes page. It has been so awesome to have you here. Selfishly, it's been fun to just revisit the transformation that I went through and to think back about how powerful that experience was. So for that reason alone, I'm really excited that you were here, but also just to share that with my audience and the notion and plant the seed in their mind that you don't have to be the person that you've been in the past, that you don't have to stay that person, that you can actually realign with who you actually are inside and become that person. So I appreciate you being here today. It's been awesome.
Thank you so much, April.
I really hope you guys enjoyed meeting Kirsie. She is such a wonderful person and has such a big heart for all of the work that she does. If you are interested in seeing her work, looking at some of the bracelets and the beautiful necklaces that she puts together, or if you're interested in her meditate and create experience, hit the link in the show notes, head over to her show notes page, or hit the link in this description, head over to her show notes page, and I'll have links to all of her stuff there so that you can check it all out. It's just such a transformational experience. I can't speak highly enough of it. It was so wonderful. I want to hit on a couple of things that are very related that we spoke about during this interview. Kirsie talked about her very raw and pretty painful personal journey from going from somebody who didn't believe in themselves and thought that they weren't worthwhile and that the things that they had to say didn't have value, and that the work that was on her heart, this creative work, would never amount to anything, and that there was no value in it either. She went from that person to someone who is extremely confident today, running a beautiful business that is completely centered around the work that she loves to do. And what I adore about that, and something that I've talked about a lot on the podcast, is, people at the end of their life feeling like they have regrets because they didn't get to live the life that they truly wanted to live, that they didn't get to be truly themselves. And, as some of you know, I've been running this program, the Life Design Lab. Something that's come up again and again in that is the beautiful just synergy that happens when you align your days and the way that you're living around who you really are. And our work is such an important part of that. We spend so much time working. And so it's critical that that aligns around our values and our strengths and mitigates our weaknesses and really helps us achieve our goals. And it's so neat to see somebody who is working in that zone that absolutely fills them up, and you can absolutely feel it when you step into Kirsie's beautiful space at Modern Well. You can feel how aligned that work is to her, and you can see it in the work product that she puts out. It is absolutely gorgeous. The photos don't do it justice. If you are in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, get to her showroom at Modern Well. It's absolutely gorgeous. So number one, live the life that's you, right? Like, be the person that you authentically are. And that gets so cheaply thrown around on social media today. But when you think about the impactful experience that we're all going to go through at the end of our lives. We're all going to be in that situation where we're looking back, thinking about how we lived. And I want to look back and feel like I truly lived as the person that I am, that I did the things that I wanted to do, even though they were scary and even though they might not be the same path that somebody else wants to take. So I wanted to call that out because it's just on my heart and on my mind right now because I'm seeing it play out in Life Design Lab every single week. And I can't tell you guys how important it is because I'm seeing it happen with my own eyes. Please do it. Please find out who that person is and live for her. Second, very related to that, but one way to do that is to reconnect to that kid inside of all of us, that inner child. What did you love doing? What filled you up? I mean, man, I look at my 3-year-old daughter right now, and that girl is nothing but completely herself. She is so full of life, and she is so just joyful, doing the things that make her happy. These days, it involves a lot of Star Wars and a lot of Frozen. But whatever that is, like, whatever that outlet was for you as a kid, reconnect with that because, man, that'll help you align around how your life should be looking and feeling today. And that was just such a great way for us to end this episode and such an amazing bit of advice from Kirsie. Because she's right. If you don't do that, at some point it's going to come up. Like at some point things will happen in your life because that person can't be denied. That person's in there. So let them out. Let them go crazy for a little bit and see what happens and see how happy it makes you. All right, you guys, I hope you have an amazing week. Thank you for stopping by. You have no idea how meaningful this podcast is to me and how much just joy and a creative outlet that it's brought into my own life. So whatever that thing is for you, I've already talked about this on prior episodes, what my journey was to starting this podcast and how very little I knew about what I was getting myself into. It doesn't matter, man. If it's on your heart, go do it. Exactly like Kirsie said, go do it. Go chase that big goal and do those creative things because they are so worth it. All right, you guys, love you. Have a great week.
Before we close out today, I want to say thank you to my producer, Cameron Hill, and to my incredible sponsor, Modern Well. If you want to learn more about how you can reach your goals in a one-of-a-kind work-life community, visit www.modernwell.co. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone else who might benefit from this inspiring message. And if you have a moment, click the link in the episode description to leave me a rating and a review on iTunes. It would mean so much to me. Finally, I want to remind you that it is absolutely possible to live a happy, fulfilling life, even in spite of all of the chaos and demands we all experience. Sign up at aprilseifert.com to gain access to tools that will help you do just that. I have carefully created and curated a set of tools that combine the powerful fields of psychology and design thinking to help you intentionally create a fulfilling, happy life you love. Thank you so much for joining me this week, and until next week, stay inspired.